get you introduced to Barbara Ann, unless I did already.
Oh yeah, that's done. Oh yeah.
You guys met?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. How was that?
It was great, great. We got on great. You know, we're live, right? But yes,
Yeah.
Barbara Ann, I love that connection. We really enjoyed our conversation. We're going to be talking more.
For sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, let's dive right in. Let's talk about the 3 resources that you recommend for other visionary leaders out there. What's helped you get to where you are and have clarity for where you're going?
Okay, so the biggest, I would say, resource is a course/book. It's called the Course Design Formula, and it's by Rebecca Cuevas. It's How to Teach Anything to Anyone Online. And I've taken her course, and that's what I've used. It's an instructional design, but really in a way that is understandable and easy to apply. Well, easy, simple to apply, not easy necessarily.
Sure.
But it's a fantastic way to understand how you need to organize information in order to basically get it into someone else's head. So it's initially about teaching online courses, but I use it for everything that I do. I use it to outline my book. I use it to outline my posts, even communications. It's a fantastic tool. So I'll give you the link. You can put it in the show notes or something.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome. Okay, that's number 1. You got 2 more?
Yes. So there is a book that I have enjoyed immensely, and I have read it multiple times, and I have post-it notes all over it. I should pull it out to show you. It's called Words That Change Minds by Shelley Rose Charvet. And it's I think based on NLP, but it's, taking, like, NLP is really an interesting discipline, but you have to basically study it for years. It's quite an endeavor.
They overcomplicate it.
Yeah. So this is still a complicated book to learn and apply, but it's really a simplification and adding some concepts to it. But really it allows you to understand people's tendencies and how they may react to certain inputs based on how they speak and how they express themselves. It's fascinating. Words That Change Minds. So that's an excellent book. I recommend to almost everybody I meet.
Awesome.
Very, very good book.
And number 3?
So number 3 is a tool. It's an online tool, and it's mind maps. And I absolutely adore mind maps. It's even more useful than journaling. I find you can journal even with a mind map. It just helps you to get your thoughts together, to organize them, to, like figuring out the proper hierarchy between your thoughts so you can start getting everything out. And then you put it, and then you organize it, and then you realize, this thing here belongs here. And it just helps you to clarify. I mean, I use it even to clarify my to-do list. What are the big buckets? What are the things that can go off? So I love mind maps, and I think it's not used enough.
I think that's an interesting point. If you are struggling with your own ideas and you've never tried a mind map, then I highly recommend giving it a try and testing it out. There's some of us grew up with schools where we were blessed to learn about all these different methods, and so but you have to practice these in order to see what works for you. But for some people, mind maps, just like Sophia said, they really rock your mind and open you up. If you don't like outlines, then you'll probably like a mind map. I love outlines, but I know that my kids, they very much are more creative than I am. They like more abstract, and they think clearer when they have the opportunity to kind of space things out. So there's a place even for me to use them when I'm organizing a whole ton of information and I don't quite know what goes in what order. A mind map is a great way to play around with it. These concepts may sound silly and may be like, oh my gosh, how does this apply to leadership and visionaries? Well, if you have teams that are helping you build, then it's important to know what resources can help your teams also grow and become more effective in ways that they can contribute to what you're doing. So all of those are awesome.
And your clients too. I mean, I help people with their LinkedIn content. And I have adapted my content creation program to work with a mind map because I was using a mind map. So I thought, well, why not my clients? So I subscribed them to this free mind mapping software, and then I created the whole template with all the prompts, and then they can just fill it out. It's
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an excellent brainstorming tool in that regard as well. As for the NLP, we talked about neuro-linguistic programming a little bit and how it can be complicated. And some people think, well, if it's complex, it shouldn't have a place in life. Well, algebra is complex. So is division. So is multiplication. So is reading, right? But life
Mm-hmm.
is far more complex without those tools than
Mm-hmm.
it is with the right tools to be able to succeed. So let's all look at this and say, you know what can I hope that as an audience you take in what is right for you. You think, all right, what can I apply from the situation? Today we're going to be talking about bringing the joy of your craft, what you love doing, into your marketing, and how Sophie can help with that process. We'll be right back. We'll dive right into that, and then we'll talk about her vision as well and where she's going from here. All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business. And I'm excited to have Sophie Lechner on and talk about really one of my favorite subjects to not talk about, and that is the subject of joy. A lot of people struggle with that concept. When I was young, I absolutely hated that word. I struggled to understand and feel joy, and I didn't realize that's why I didn't like it. And through the process of coming to appreciate happiness and peace in general, I came to finally understand the value of it. A lot of you are probably like, how do you hate joy? Like, wow, I love what I do and etc. Well, I'm glad I'm there now. And we want to explore, how do we help the business owners and the leaders and the visionaries out there gravitate towards talking about joy or bringing in joy naturally into their marketing. And here's why. Most people out there that we see are marketing a product or a service, and nobody cares. I'm sorry, but nobody cares about your product or service. They care about how what you do relates to them, and it has nothing to do with the product or service. So we're going to talk about that with Sophie. We're going to talk about how you can ultimately bring this type of virtue into what it is you're promoting out there, and why it can lead to far greater results than talking about the product or service itself. Before we bring Sophie on stage, a couple of resources for you. We have them in the form of sponsorships here. We're going to talk about Dave Morrow with Hard to Kill. Hardtokill.org has an award-winning podcast in the military, sector industry for veterans. He's helping 100,000 veterans lose 2 million pounds collectively through his workout programs. He's got the world's easiest workout plan. He's also got a community for veterans that right now has no charge to it to join. And he's got his Beast Body Blueprint program as well. Dave is leading by example. He gained some weight after he got home. He ended up with, a pretty serious bout of depression that affected his personal life. And he ended up finding out, like, he lost his identity in the process of returning from being somebody who protects us to being somebody who was trying to get back into civilian society. And he had his bounce back, of course, and is able to lead the way. He'll be at the Military Influencer Conference coming up within a couple of weeks as well, if you get to join that over in Georgia. And if you know a military veteran who would benefit from being involved with a community that understands the struggles that they're going through, then I highly recommend checking out Hard to Kill and seeing what Dave's up to with that initiative. Then we have opportunities. I'm excited to talk about oportunidades de trabajo para Latinos, or opportunities for Indians and opportunities for Filipinos. This is our own creation. And what it is, it's a free training program for Latinos, for people in India, for people in the Philippines, so that they can understand how to become virtual assistants themselves. And the byproduct is we certify these virtual assistants. And then, of course, people that want to work with our virtual assistants, they can apply. But we're very careful about how we go about that, because we see too much VA experience in the market. What is that? We call it virtual abuse. I see too many people not taking care of the people that they work with, not training them, not taking interest in their lives. And as leaders, if you want to have great results, take care of your people in-house. And that's really what this program's about. So they've been doing an awesome job of building this out. We're starting to launch it in other countries. You can see here, there's about 700 people in this group. And Louisa, who's been with us for a matter of, I want to say 6 weeks now, maybe 8 weeks total. She just did her first podcast interview, and her guest was Kike Inglés, who has 900,000 subscribers on his channel. Can you imagine that, podcasters? If your first guest that you ever interviewed had almost 1 million subscribers, and what that would do for your confidence, seeing that he enjoyed the experience and beyond. So Kike has become a good friend of us. We love what he's doing in terms of teaching English as well. And we're getting more and more Latino leaders involved in that process. So if you have any Latin roots or association with Central South America or the developing world, please let us know. Come get involved. See how we can change lives. It is amazing to take these individuals who, many of which have never had a job in the online space. We help them with interview skills. We help them learn how to use the tools online. And it is just, this is actually what I live for. The podcast is fun. I love hearing about visions, but I really love helping rest of world projects. Speaking of, we're going to move over to the water project as well. And I'll end on this, and I'll do this one fast this time. The water project, there's millions of people who don't have access to clean drinking water. And when I found out about that, I was like, you know what? I need to, I want to talk about this because I've never been thirsty in my life. I've never had to deal with that. And so when I started to really ponder and meditate on the fact that these kids have to leave school to get water, or these parents have to leave work to get water, it kind of broke my heart. I was like, I can do more to help something like this. And what's cool is when you donate to this project, you get to pick the project you want to help. And they actually show you, the water project shows you the outcome of the experience, whether they build a sand dam or a borehole well. So definitely consider getting involved in this. And if you can't financially support it, just share it with friends. You never know who will actually be in your network that can support it. And if you have another cause that you'd like to see us give back to, please don't hesitate to drop that cause in the comments. We've got 8 billion people to help in this world. So why not jump in and do that? It's amazing what it can do for you as well in terms of feeling important, feeling valuable, feeling your purpose. And if you struggle with that at all, I hope you hear my voice. You are important, you do matter, and you can make a big difference in this world. So without further ado, Sophie Lechner, welcome to Vision Pros Live.
Thank you, Jackson. I love that you promote these causes. They're amazing.
It is so fun too to dive in and talk about these causes and see the difference that it can make,
Yeah.
just by bringing the right people into it. So thanks for taking a little bit of extra time to honor that. Maybe we'll circle back around.
Mm-hmm.
As we get started, Sophie, tell me, what is your vision for the people that you serve?
So I have become quite passionate about helping entrepreneurs. I have been exposed to so many entrepreneurs. I did some coaching years ago and saw how many entrepreneurs just lose their dream. They lose steam because mostly of marketing, and how it is distorted and how it really sort of eats away at their passion, at their confidence, and puts them in a place that's not comfortable for them. And I want to remedy that. And I think I have found a solution to it, which is really to embody your mission and stay deeply connected with the reason why you started your business. And if you stay connected to that mission and you're here to help people, you can be actually doing this the whole time, and that ends up being your marketing. So treat your audience as if they were your clients already. And that's the vision I have, is for entrepreneurs who are passionate about helping others to be able to sustainably do their business.
I love that. That is a very interesting way of looking at bringing the joy into the craft, because, and I'm going to pick on certain industries right now, from vape shops to real estate agents to life insurance policy people. You're going to love what you do, right? You're not going to hate what you do every day and stick with it, maybe for a little while, but most people are going to find their way out of something that they hate. And oftentimes we end up pretending we like something more than we do. But I think one of the greatest red flags is if you aren't willing to do what you're doing for free for somebody, and that seems like a drain on your energy or like it's taking away from your life,
Hmm.
probably have a massive misalignment with what your
Yeah.
purpose is and what your life calling is and what you could be doing for people. What are your thoughts on that, Sophie?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Once you find that thing that you would want to do, regardless of the circumstances, you could just, like drop everything and you be doing this. And if you had your druthers, that's all you would do. That's the thing that, and people feel that passion. They absolutely feel it. And conversely, when you're trying to sell something that you're not aligned with, believe me, I know because I did that for years. People feel it. It doesn't work. It doesn't really come across.
Yes. I've been fortunate to only do short stints because I couldn't tolerate it. I
Mhm.
could not bring myself to represent something that I wasn't in love with and passionate about.
Mhm.
But there's a choice there. There's a choice. We
Mhm.
might talk more people out of their temporary visions today than we do talk
Mhm.
into their actual visions. But that's
Mhm.
kind of like the Alcoholics Anonymous process. You have to become aware, right?
Yes.
Before you can make a change and make a shift. And while it seems scary, it's probably, for me, it's the most liberating process that I ever dedicated my life to, is making sure that
Mhm.
I've aligned myself with what I love doing. And I would never take that back.
Can I add something to that? Because I
Yeah,
realize,
absolutely. I'm going to switch to your vision, but it's same
yeah,
concept. It's right in
yes.
the same vein.
So I think, being passionate about what you do is critical. That's what we've just talked about, but also talking about it, because in those years where I was, I alluded to that earlier, where I was selling something, but it wasn't resonating with people. I was passionate about what I was doing,
Mm,
but I left that passion at home, so to speak, in my back pocket. It was hidden. I was not communicating that. And
interesting.
I think that was not as big a misalignment as selling something you don't love, of course, but it's still a form of misalignment if you're not communicating your why, because I think your why is really what makes people sort of connect with you and want to work with you.
I'm gonna pick on authors in this case, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot of people launching books right now. I've got my own books on hold that I've been writing for years,
Mhm.
and part of the one of the saddest things that I hear authors talk about, or not talk about, rather, as you mentioned, they leave that passion at home, is they start to say things in life like, oh, I want this book to get out there, but it's okay if it's not a New York Times bestseller. It's okay it's not a Wall Street Journal. But the negativity that they usually bring when they talk about the challenge of what that looks like is often based in the fear of
Yeah.
what they don't know about the publishing process, or what they find out about how difficult it is, or the fact that they told a friend or family member, hey, I'm going to write a book and I'm really excited about it. And the family member says, why would you write a book? It's so hard. You're never going to make any money on that.
Mhm.
Then they say, oh, well, I'm not trying to make any money on that. And they plant this seed in their heart and in their head and their mind,
Yeah.
and say, oh, well, that's not really that important to me. That's baloney.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
absolutely baloney. Nobody publishes a book for nobody to read it. That is
Yeah.
not the case. But how do we balance? I'm curious about your thoughts on this. I'll add mine too. But how do we balance the belief of, I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to be excited to do this at my best, with the pragmatic reality that hitting the New York Times is really hard to do? And who do we talk to about this so that we get support, versus people who are constantly telling us, oh, be careful, oh, you can't do that, oh, it's not going to work out? How are you handling that with your own book publishing process?
I love it. So you given me this like $1 billion question, right? Like the hardest question of them all. That is the difficult thing to do, is to believe. But again, it goes back to your mission. If you really, really anchor yourself anytime that something is hard into why you're doing it, and the fact that it's not for you, it's for other people, you're able to get over all these things. But I agree, the fear is there. Like you talk about this New York Times bestseller, and this person who read my book, we were on a call and they said, no, this is a great book, I'm sure it's going to be on the New York Times bestseller. And I was like, making these faces. And then I thought, the fear is if I say that and then it doesn't happen, I'm going to look silly. That's the fear. Well, at least for me, that's the
Right.
fear.
Yeah, a lot of people have that fear. I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sure I still go through that.
yeah, and when we hear other people who have these grand visions, there's a part of us that says, well, don't, you're make yourself bigger than your britches or whatever that expression is, and all this. But there's a part of us that feels like, oh, I wish I had that belief, that confidence, that belief in my vision. And yeah, so that's part of what I talk about in my book. There's three main pillars to be able to bring the joy of your craft into your marketing, and one of them is movement. And that's the hardest. I mean, mission is one thing. There's all kinds of exercises in the book to get your mission right and communicate it, all this in
Mhm.
your message. But the movement is really hard to get yourself out there and just go beyond your comfort zone. And I know I'm right in the middle of it, so
Yeah, right.
it's hard.
It's very hard. It's certainly not easy. I'm going to drop a resource as well in the comments, everybody, about this process, because again, this book reality and publishing the book, this is back into access to a document called the Power Five, and it is
Mhm.
a story about how Jack Canfield, um, Mark Victor Hansen, and how they launched the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and all of the hard work they put in to making sure that that book was successful. And it took 2 years of daily dedication to amazing efforts in order to get it to launch. And now they're at I think more than a billion, half a billion or more than a billion published books. That's a lot to keep track of. But
Yeah.
we can get the same types of results if we learn to utilize the same systems, the same techniques, the same opportunities, build the same strengths. But it can be very hard, and not all of
Mhm.
us do have that capability. I want to acknowledge that it is not for everybody. So we'd love your thoughts as well on the book publishing process, if you've been through it. But here's my greater concern with it. I worry for all the people who end up with less than 100 reviews on their
Mhm.
books on Amazon, because it looks awful from a leadership standpoint. It's like having a TED Talk with the least amount of reviews, right? Least amount of
Yeah.
views on YouTube. You do not want to be in the ranks of the worst TED Talks of all time. It can be a reputation killer. The same is true of launching a book and doing it wrong. So make
Mhm.
sure that you're paying attention to that as you consider what marketing avenues you have.
Mhm.
And we'll take a little bit of time right now. So instead of worrying so much about the avenues, my friends, I hope that you realize that marketing is kind of like the adrenaline of of your launch, of what it is that you're doing. Sophie's talked about the joy of the craft and what you do. Let's dive in a little bit deeper on that. What does it mean to have joy in your craft to you, Sophie?
Mm. So, for example, if you're a coach and you want to help people with their marketing, let's say, random example, of course.
So, marketing coach, got it.
Right. um, you want to help your clients when they hire you and help them with all the wisdom you've accumulated over the years and give them all of your best stuff. And on the other side, the rest of the time when you're not with your clients, you have to do your marketing. And that's a drag, and you have to write posts and you have to do all kinds of things.
Why is that a drag?
Well, in this person's in the
For
person
those who have
in a
who are
lot of
listening to that
people's world.
piece.
And what I'm saying is bringing the joy of your craft over is that if you think in your marketing that you are helping not just your clients, but all the people who are there on social media, in your email subscription list, and everywhere else, you're helping them in the same way that you're helping your clients. Then when you're writing a post, it's not just like me who's going to look at it, how many likes am I going to get? It's there's people out there who need this information. And when you put that love and that passion you have for helping into that post, all of a sudden, first of all, it's easy to write and it's not a drag anymore. And people feel that and recognize that. And then you do this enough times, people will see your expertise and then they will want to work with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So they're going to want to work with what they see when they see that the passion flows through us and the joy flows through us in what we do. How do you do that in the form of a post?
So the other super important pillar of all this, I've talked about your mission is your message, and the message is about really deeply understanding your audience. And you do this, obviously through market research, through knowing your clients, excuse me, and a lot of networking, etc. And you want to understand not just their pain, their problems, their challenges, but also all of the beliefs that they are carrying around, which could come from their culture, from their upbringing, from, any number of places. They have beliefs. They have beliefs about their own problem. They may not even know that it's a problem, first of all, right? They might have beliefs around the fact that maybe it's their own fault for having this problem, and not knowing that it's something that can be fixed. There's all kinds of beliefs that get in the way, and what you need to do in your content, in your posts, is to address these beliefs. And once you start doing that, people will see that, and they will recognize themselves. They will see what they've been thinking and understand that it was not quite right, and sort of start thinking differently. And that's the other part of bringing the joy of your craft, because what we do in our coaching, or what we do in our work to help, is to help people get a transformation. And you might be able to create transformations with people that you never even met, who you're never even going to click on your posts or anything, but they are reading your content and they're actually being transformed, whether they become clients or not. You're helping them to sort of come to grips with certain things that they're struggling with.
Okay. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit in terms of marketing, and that's okay, because this podcast is not going in like a lecture order. But there's the people, we're talking about people who will see and benefit, well, who will benefit from seeing the post, but we're not yet talking about how to get that post in front of the right people, and making sure that we have awareness already. Let's take a look real quick. So this is live, right? We've got 2 likes on our live message, and we've got quite a few people who've liked your post. I think, what is that, 30 or 10? Somewhere in there. And then 2 on this post. It's hard to influence an audience that you don't have, right? And I'm saying, for myself included, for all of us as entrepreneurs, sometimes people assume that just posting on social media ends up driving a ton of traffic, and everybody's going to pay attention to every single post you put out there, even though there's tons of companies and tons of people, billions, also creating posts online. So what evidence is there? What success stories can you talk about, Sophie, of people who have implemented this process of passionate or joyful education that relates to their audience, and the results that have come from doing so?
Yeah. So the first result that I want to highlight is that is an internal result, is the fact that they're enjoying their marketing, and they're happy to be doing it, and it's not a drag anymore, and that reduces the burnout rate of people who are entrepreneurs. So that, in terms of results,
Is there a stat behind that, or is that a feeling?
well, that's a feeling. I don't have stats on that, but I know that people really change their attitude.
The reason why I ask is because the statistics show over 100 years that 96% of businesses fail within 10 years, and 4% survive. So if there's something that is incrementally, or even 1-2% making the difference in people sticking to and gaining success, and of course we want to know what it is, but I've seen the opposite with social media. I've never seen anybody pay a bill with happiness, for instance. That doesn't discredit the value of happiness at all. But in terms of business and learning how to grow a business, there's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd love to see the evidence and the case studies of, all right, what are some situations where these individuals have posted and they've gained client traction and
Mhm.
case studies out of the
Yeah.
opportunities.
So I like to bring the the joy first, but obviously there's results, and the results are that over time they're able to gain clients, and they it's not an overnight thing with LinkedIn, but if you apply the strategies that I talk about, and you start posting, you start with your profile and have really a solid profile that really shows your passion and what you do and the results you get for your clients, and then your content, people come to it, and then the objective
Well,
is
I've heard this from 10,000 marketers, and so has everybody else. It's
yes. And
no
so
different. Everybody's saying that. So
mhm,
again, where is the evidence? Where are the case studies? You talk about the clients that come
mhm,
and buy because of it and the wonderful
mhm,
fruit. That's all theoretical.
mhm,
Where is the evidence of the companies that are doing this? And let's look at an actual case study on it.
mhm. Well, I can tell you about a client of mine, Janice, who was
Janice, what?
is Janice Francisco.
Okay.
She's a consultant, and she helps CEOs to bring in more innovation into their companies.
Hmm.
So the problem there was that the CEOs had, this is all about the beliefs, right? So they thought that they wanted more innovation, and what she had found through her market research. Do you want me to? You can just
Yeah,
look
go
for
ahead. What's the, how
it.
do you spell it, or what's the
Yeah,
website?
it's the middle one on the top there.
Middle one? Okay.
Yes. Hmm. Um, yeah, Janice CE. Um, her CEO clients thought that they wanted their no, that's not it, right? They wanted
Okay.
their teams to be more. Sorry, it's very hard for me to watch this while I'm trying to look away. They wanted their teams to be more innovative, and what she had found through deep research is that it really came down to collaboration. And so through her content, she was able to convey that and really talk about the different uh, levels of awareness of her clients, and gradually increase the relationships that she was building, et cetera. And she got several $100,000 consulting gigs from that, and really filled her pipeline with these types of things.
That's awesome. And
Right.
so this is a link that any of you can go to and study out what types of results is this person getting, with their process of social media. And I love that you're working with somebody who's got decades of wisdom as well.
Mhm.
Right?
That's
She's
usually
not
the case for my clients. Yeah, yeah. There are
right.
people
She's not
who've been
new
in.
at what she does. She's
Mhm,
established. She comes with a whole lot of wisdom and
mhm,
truth and opportunity for vulnerability and things that an audience can truly relate to. And that's something that I think is so important for our audience to understand, because a lot of the people that end up launching their visions end up hearing this general theoretical guidance, but it's not a one size fits all.
mhm,
And we end up putting people in a position to where they hurt themselves, versus putting a context around who's ready to benefit from this,
mhm,
who's ready to take off. And if we're not careful, we end up, people will come in with expectations that aren't based in reality. And we
mhm,
as leaders, we've got to be the doctors who patient comes in and says, "Hey, I want a ton of OxyContin because my neck hurts." We have to, as a doctor, say, "Well, wait a second, let's do the assessments and see,
mhm.
is this a good idea for your situation, or
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
coming in because of an addiction to some type of external result
yeah.
that's not in your best interest?" So, if anybody wants to know about more, the point that I'm making with this too, it doesn't even just have to be Sophie's examples. Tesla understands the value of putting joy into their craft. Red Bull understands the value of putting joy into their craft. Any sports and entertainment industry is an industry that you can follow and see how are they bringing the joy into their crafts. And usually wherever the eyes are flowing, It's
Mhm.
because the hearts have been drawn and they feel this alignment that's incredible. And you can do that with your brand and with your vision. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You can find a way
Mhm.
to do just that. So let's talk about let's shift gears dramatically. What's the worst leadership experience that you've ever had, Sophie?
Well, when I was in the corporate pharmaceutical field, I had a manager at one point who was very manipulative and very, I guess she felt, I don't know, threatened all the time or something, but she was very aggressive and just put me down and put the people around her down and was always promoting conflict. And it was just a horrible ambiance in that whole team. Like everybody was just so on edge all the time. And she was really questioning people and sort of undermining them and questioning even their expense reports and all this other stuff. It was just that was the worst. It was just yeah, down putting down the people who she worked with.
It sounds like a case of what I would call downhill doubt.
Oh yeah.
And, I encourage my team members bring doubt uphill, right?
Hmm.
That doubt's important to work through. It's important to
Hmm.
figure out. But when the leader starts to doubt down at people,
Hmm.
and bring their fears, and they crush people with these
Hmm.
concerns, it's not something that motivates and creates action. It's something that breeds fear. So that is a really powerful example
Yeah.
of what not to do if you're finding yourself in a position where you are doubting or expressing doubts to the relationships around you, no matter what relationship.
Mm.
It's probably going to leave a sour taste with those
Yeah.
who are trying to fit into your life. Let's
Mm.
look at the opposite. What's the best
Yeah.
leadership experience you've ever had?
Yeah. So the opposite of that, and it's really it has to do with trust and trusting the people around you, and that makes such a huge difference. I had a manager. It was actually the one right after this one, so it was a nice breather. Um, he was just giving me all the opportunities possible for me to learn and finding just that right balance between putting me in situations that were going to challenge me, but at the same time where I could grow within them and not fail. And I remember he actually sent me all on my own to represent the company. And this is one of the, Fortune 50 pharma companies at a big conference abroad in Venice, actually. Lovely. And when he told me I was going to go by myself, so coordinating the booth and all the activities and the speakers and the conferences, I was scared stiff, but I did it and I grew to it. And from there on in, I was able to do it again and again. But the first time I was terrified. And I said, but are you sure? What are you doing? But he was like, no, you can do it. And when you can grow, the potential of your, team member, and you can bring it out better than they actually would know it themselves. That's phenomenal. That's what leadership really is.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the reality that trust is given, not earned,
Mm-hmm.
and the opposite is believed in the world by most people. But when we can step into trusting others, allowing people with healthy boundaries, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like that leader was in a position to where he wasn't going to be hurt no matter what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
he honored the reality that allowing you to swim, right, and to have that
Yeah.
experience was going to be a benefit for both of you. So
Yeah.
that's
And
amazing.
the self-confidence, the deep confidence that he had was the opposite of what that other
Exactly.
woman had. Was she was so insecure, whereas this guy was
Mm.
secure, very secure in his position and in what his decisions were. And that's what allowed him to give me some of that
I'm
confidence.
so glad that you said that because it's often easier times in situations like this where we're evaluating, does it apply to me? where it hurts less to receive that type of feedback. So if
Mhm.
you find yourself doubting others, then
Mm.
what I heard you just say, Sophie, and what I also agree with, is that's often a reflection of self,
Mhm.
that you have doubts and fears you haven't overcome, which is where it's super helpful to find people in your life who will help you resolve those, and
Mhm.
lead with more confidence. Speaking of, we got a shout out here that I'll bring up. So we got Sue Ellen Sweeney, who says,
Mhm.
Sophie has been such a great teacher and mentor to me as I'm finding my way on LinkedIn. Let's talk about a live case study. Um,
Mhm.
how'd you meet Sue Ellen? And what are you guys working on together?
So Swell is actually not a client. She's just somebody that I've been helping, because I do that a lot.
You
And
practice like you play. Good for you.
yeah, exactly. That's part of what I do. So I met Swellen years ago in a coaching program that we were both in. And as I always do in these kinds of situations, I put in the chat, if you want to, in fact, anybody on this call, if you want to chat with me, we can put the link in the chat. So I did that, and Sue Ellen took me up on it, and we talked about her profile. We talked about posting, but it's something that I do all the time. And what if people have a question, a specific question, I answer that specific question. But a lot of times, I just give them. I look at where they are, and I give them the best next 3 steps that they can take. So the advice is not the same for everybody. It's different
Yeah.
for each person that I talk to. But I look at where they are and also what they want, but also what they're comfortable with. And so I wouldn't, recommend to someone who's, ill at ease with video that they do, lives every week. It's just, you have to take people where they are
Yeah.
and then help them to grow to the next thing. And anybody who gets on a call with me is always welcome to book another one, soon after or 6 months later or a year
Yeah.
later. So I've had a couple of these calls with Swellen over time, over the years, and it's taken her a little step further every time.
Awesome. I'm gonna throw out a paradigm that's a bit controversial, but it's
Mhm.
one that I think that needs to be explored by leaders on both sides of the spectrum. One, I also love to do free work with people. I'm a big proponent of the freemium business model in general, and I love getting paid as well. Both of those
Mhm.
realities are very important. What I don't like to do is get paid by people who don't appreciate their own freedom, right? People who want me to decide how much they pay, or what their cost is. I don't think that the do it yourself, done with you, done for you, or estimate styles of business, there's too much evidence that those fizzle out, burn out, and do really poorly long term. So with individuals like Sue Ellen has an opportunity to step up and say, okay, I received all of this without any charge. What am I going to do to compensate and give back to the individual that I'm working with? Now, I'm not throwing Sue Ellen under the bus. I think some people could hear that and be like, wow, he's not being fair. We don't know Sue's circumstances. We do know that she came on live and that she talked in this. But when we eat at a restaurant, the restaurant business model is pay for the food, and then there's a server there, and we can leave a 0% tip, we can leave a 10% tip, we can leave a 20% tip, or we can do what some of the all-time greats do and throw a $10,000 tip on there, right? Nothing stops us from choosing, because we have the freedom to look at that. And I also have people who work with me for free.
Mhm.
Right. So once again, this is not an attack on any individual. This is an opportunity for all of us as leaders to evaluate, how are we as leaders choosing what type of compensation we give to those who provide value to us. And so with my hosts for Vision Pros Live, I have 5
Mhm.
co-hosts. I don't
Mhm.
pay them, but they
Mhm.
also don't pay me for the
Mhm.
platform. My
Mhm.
guests, they don't pay to come on this
Mhm.
show. We put a lot of money into this infrastructure. So there's
Mhm.
an opportunity to give back there. But the onus, when we receive a gift from somebody else, it's on the recipient to decide, how much am I going to value what is there? Am I going to, move forward in certain aspects or not? And I think we all need to evaluate that and say, how do we as business owners or leaders in our own lives come to a decision that we're ready to invest in those who've helped us with our growth. What are your thoughts, Sophie?
Yeah, well, my thoughts are there are all kinds of currencies, and
Yes.
you've talked mainly about the money one, the one that we're all
Correct.
familiar with. But there are plenty of others, and so I would rather have, and not over time, long term, all the time, but I would rather have a person who is not paying me, but is doing the things that I recommend and is coming to my workshops and participating and talking to others about what they've learned from me. Like in the case of Sue Ellen, you can see she made the effort to come on this podcast, and she's putting herself out there.
Huge.
There's plenty of ways that are really important as an entrepreneur. Yes, you need to make sales, you need to make money, but you need to have that gratification, that fulfillment, that what you're doing, what you're recommending to people is being done, that they remember you, that they talk about you. So all
Huge.
of those different currencies are as important as the money one, and we can't live without them.
That's right.
So
In fact,
everybody,
they can be more important. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
everybody, it's a whole relationship, and the important thing is the relationship. And then in some of them, there's a money exchange, in some of them, there's other exchanges.
It's important to realize the economy of abundance. And that's kind of what you're alluding to, is it's not just
Absolutely.
about the finances. Again, that's why as leaders, we have to be willing to recognize and understand the value that exists there. And if that scares us, right? If that fears, if
Mhm.
Sue, for instance, were to get offended by that, or you were to get
Mhm.
offended by that, that's only your loss. But
Mhm.
meanwhile, here's Darren Hardy with the compound
Mhm.
effect, right? Mr. New
Mhm.
York Times bestseller multiple times. And who wrote the forward? Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
And when I saw that, that was the first time it dawned on me. I was like, oh, I bet he didn't pay Tony Robbins for that forward, even though there's plenty of people who do pay for those
Mhm.
forwards. And that's not a bad thing either. But they're of the level where they have a mutual respectful friendship. They have their own audiences, and they know the value of
Mhm.
combining their audiences to a greater degree. They don't Tony doesn't fear Darren Hardy taking all of his
Mhm.
people. Darren Hardy doesn't fear Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
crushing him with his power and size.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities. Chris Voss talks about this as well, and Never Split the Difference, and how in
Mhm.
negotiating there
Yeah.
are other types of
Mhm.
compensations or values and benefits that you can get out of the relationship. So I'm really grateful that you highlight that and bring attention to it. Now, if this were the last time you had the chance to rock the mic and share a powerful lesson, what powerful lesson can other visionaries learn from your experience, Sophie?
I would say as early as possible, focus in on what makes you special, and then rock that.
I love that.
um, a lot of people just are not so have not done the work of figuring out what I call their golden thread. So go back into their story and figure out, okay, so why did I decide to do this here? Why did I decide to do that at that other juncture? What was I thinking? What were the things that I was loving, not loving? Like doing all this internal work to really understand what drives us and what makes us who we are, and then just love that to death and put that out there. I think that's really something that we all need to learn to do as soon as possible.
I love that. That's find out what makes you special and then rock that. That's such a cool quote.
Mhm.
So it is harder to do than I think oftentimes we admit. I was in my 30s.
Mhm.
I finally started to do that. All the cool things
Oh,
that I may have done, all the opportunities I may
yeah.
have had, most of it was living in my shadow, and
Mhm.
being scared to come out
Yeah.
and be myself. And there's still still elements of that. I'm grateful for Taylor Welch, who said and I don't think he got this verified by Michael Phelps, but it resonated. He said when Michael Phelps, for instance, is trying to break the world record, or the new Olympians who are, there's an element of imposter syndrome that's probably
Mhm.
inevitable because they're doing something they've never done before.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing things that you've never done before, there's certainly a type of fear of the unknown that's going to come up. But when we can learn to recognize, okay, when are our fears of the unknown safe? And who do we have to help us, support us through this? Then we can unlock new levels of special realities within us that we may be hiding from ourselves. And I'd invite everybody who's listening to explore today. I'm going to go explore it. Thanks to you saying this, Sophie. What else can I do to further unlock what is special within me so that I can show up even better for my audience and those who I love and serve? So thank you for that.
I love the way Seth Godin talks about imposter syndrome. He says, if you've never done something before, of course you should have imposter syndrome. You are an imposter because you've never done it before. So that's
funny. Accept it, right? That makes a lot of sense. It's like, yep, that's so funny. I'm going to write that down right after this. So Vision Pros, those of you listening in, down below this video, you'll see action steps that you can take in order to get involved with Sophie Lechner as a LinkedIn coach, as a mentor, as an individual. You can see she's freely giving. And of course, don't let what I say next prevent you from reaching out. Honor her with the proper compensation. Learn to do that for everybody that you contact. But I hope you never let money or your fear of money prevent you from connecting with somebody who you feel drawn to connect with. I see too many people hide from those opportunities. So take full advantage of getting to know the mentors that are available in your life. And down below that, we'll also drop the resources. If a resource really, like if that resource of words that change minds really hits you and you're like, man, I want to check that out, contact the author too. Take the chance to see what it's like to get to know these individuals. It's amazing what can transpire in your life when you start to talk to people who want to, you want to help you move it along. And if you want to be on our show, in the top right corner where it says be our guest, don't hesitate to apply to be on our show. We'd love to hear your vision. As long as you're out there doing something holistic, you're trying to help others, then that's something that we want to honor and help get the word out as well for what you're up to. We got a lot of people to help in this world. So let's do it together. Sophie, any final thoughts?
Oh, I've just enjoyed this conversation also, and the one we had before as well, which I'm going to start sharing in addition to this. Just go out there and, make a movement and make things move.
And let's rock that. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building